For a portion of time, people thought Walter Cronkite was, my God, an actual journalist, right? There was never a golden era of unbiased journalism. You just weren't able to fact check it.
It's not nowadays, just a lot of things get published, but you
Right.
don't really know if it's unbiased or not. What are like some of the sources that you recommend most, like when you're researching things historically or whatnot?
It's a good question. I actually recommend the most biased sources possible. So every morning I read Huffington Post, Salon, Watch Young Turks, Washington Post. I have a subscription, New York Times. I want to see what the left is saying. And then I'll read some conservative news sources. But I would say our show is different from a lot of conservative news shows because we're usually addressing the issues that the mainstream left media focuses on and not what other conservative media tends to focus on. They're kind of two different worlds. There's a bit of a chasm there. So I would encourage everybody, what I just do is set some bookmarks. Here's the thing. It's a myth. The idea of, and I know some people don't necessarily agree with me on this, the idea of once objective journalism, like the era of Walter Cronkite. If you read quotes from Walter Cronkite, he said, I don't think you can be a journalist and not be a liberal. For a portion of time, people thought Walter Cronkite was, my God, an actual journalist, right? There was never a golden era of unbiased journalism. You just weren't able to fact check it. We just believed it. Just like up until the most recent election, Fox News was seen as right, MSNBC was seen as left, and CNN was seen as center. Does anyone believe that CNN is center anymore? No, of course not. And so I think the best that you can do is accept that human beings have an inherent bias and read from at least openly biased sources. So read from sources that you know are coming from a left-wing point of view. Read from sources that you know are coming from a right-wing point of view. Juxtapose them and decide where you line up, as opposed to trying to find a more unbiased, authoritative source, because frankly, and having worked in this industry for a long time, it doesn't exist.
I think one of the things to keep in mind, the first site I check every morning is Slate, which maybe 10 years ago was a little more centric, but it's definitely been a decidedly and openly more leftist type platform. But it's the first one I do because it's the one that's challenging the ideas that I already have. And so if you're not willing to have your ideas challenged, if you're not willing to sit in the seat and answer the tough questions, you're not going to be ready to answer them when someone else wants it to be that. When they come to you with your ideas, you won't be ready to. So what I do is I read those articles, I go through and I fact check them myself. Right, and that requires more work, it requires more engagement. And sometimes I'll fact check them and I'll type in the topic and I'll look at a couple different news sources. Most of the time you can go look at the actual study, go look at the actual quote. Most of the time they're not even a source, right? So you're having to figure out what those things are. And it's that type of kind of investigation that will give you maybe a little bit of a jaded eye, but I'd say a more critical eye of any source you're looking to, and to get more to that nugget of truth that is out there. And frankly, it's all a little bit gray. It's all a little bit gray. Very rarely is either one of these going to be just spot on, whether it's statistics or facts, and especially what now is counting as journalism is frankly just a lot of opinions.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.